Imagine you're swimming. After a long, grueling swim, you then have to get on a bike for several miles, get off the bike, and then run for a few more miles. This is the process of running a triathlon. Each leg of this race requires its own individual training regimen. Now, this may seem daunting, but you might be surprised to know that triathlons are actually accessible to most people. Really, it just takes training. Now, this may be months or even years of training, but it is accessible to even the least experienced athlete. I myself considered running a triathlon starting about 3 years ago, and it took me until this spring to decide that I was actually going to start my training. Today I will explain the steps of training for the running, biking, and swimming of a triathlon. Since swimming comes first in the typical triathlon, I'll explain that one. I'll start with that one. Now, swimming is generally the most difficult for most people. There are a few reasons why it comes first. The main one is because when you swim first, you still have all of your energy, and so there's less chance of drowning. The unfortunate part of swimming first is that you're then wet for the rest of the race. There are several aspects of training for the swimming portion, and the best way to do this is to swim 2 to 3 times a week to build your endurance and stamina. In 2010, in Finch's book, Triathlon Training, he suggests that technique in swimming is everything. So for this reason, it might be helpful to join a swim class or take swimming lessons to improve your performance in this portion of the race. Swimming also works all of the major muscle groups in the body, so it's important to also use weights for additional muscular development to tone your muscles. Also in 2010, in Your First Triathlon by Friel, he says that lifting weights definitely improves the performance of those who lack power, and this applies especially to those who are new to triathlon. So those are a few of the basic principles of training for swimming, and the second step in triathlon is the cycling. The cycling is generally the second most daunting to people who are new to triathlon, and it's also the second hardest discipline for most people. It comes second in the race because of the history, which the first triathlon went in the order swim, bike, and then run, and so since then the typical triathlon has always held the cycling as the second step. To train for cycling is a little bit easier than swimming because it's something that most people have grown up doing. Each week you want to add mileage to your cycling, or you can do it in the form of hours or minutes. You can increase your minutes. So in the Time Crunch Triathlete by Carmichael, he suggests a 10% increase each week. So for instance, week 1, you would take 2 45-minute rides and one 1-hour ride. And the second week, you would take 1 45-minute ride and 2 1-hour rides. Cycling works the muscle groups from the waist down. So this includes the gluteus maximus, the hip flexors, the quadriceps and hamstrings, and the calves. And these are all worked at different points of the cycling as the pedal goes around. Then after the swimming and cycling comes the running. Running comes easily for most people since it's something we've done since childhood, and it's something that you just have to work at to build up your speed and stamina. It's especially more challenging to run after you've also swam and biked at least a few miles. So it's important to save energy for this portion of the race. In order to train, you'll want to start slow and build up a base of a good speed and stamina, and then slowly increase your speed and stamina as you improve. It's important important not to increase too quickly, as this can lead to injuries. In Macmillan's article, I Love Quarters, from the April 2012 edition of Running Times, he quotes, "There's something beautiful about running one lap of the track fast, taking a break, then doing it again." He's referring to a running technique called running quarters, where you run one lap fast and one lap slow. So that's just one option of training for the running portion. Running also works the same muscles as cycling, except less of the hip flexors and gluteus maximus. So those are a few of the training principles involved in training for a triathlon. I hope that this has made you feel more informed about what goes into the training process. It's interesting to see how much hard work training for a triathlon is, as you have to train for swimming, cycling, and running, all for one race. So, who's ready to work out?